Hey, rock stars, Lid Shaw, Recording Studio Rockstars, and I'm really excited because today, that bigger picture you're seeing on your screen, I think it's bigger because I think I'm in the small picture, but that's Evan Bakke joining us from Power Station New England in Waterford, Connecticut. How you doing, Evan?
Good. How's it going, man?
It's going great, man. Rockstars, a reminder, Evan has been on the podcast with us on episode 233 pretty recently. And we talked all about the studio, but we thought this would be a really great opportunity while we're all locked up at home here during COVID-19 lockdown to just kind of check in, do a studio tour before it's totally shut down, and bring you some good news in the middle of all this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I figured we'd just take a walk through the studio. I'll just show you the whole place and whatever you want to see, I'll show you.
Dude, give us a brief introduction to yourself and where you are so we sort of know where we're Skyping in from.
Sure. Yeah, I'm in Waterford, Connecticut. It's about 2 hours northeast of New York City and just south of Boston. So I'm like right in between Boston and New York. I've been running this studio for just about 3 years, and it's great. My wife and I moved here from Minneapolis almost 5 years ago, and I've been working out of here ever since we moved here, and been running it for 3, and it's awesome.
Now, you guys had a bit of good news recently. Before we all just got this bad news, you're a new dad, right?
Yeah. I think I was telling you this, that we did the interview like either 3 or 4 days after the kid was born, and so I was completely fried.
That's so great that you named your child the Kid. Is his name the Kid Bakke? That's great. Great name, man.
Kid Bakke. No, his name's Ezra.
Oh, that's great, man. What a cool name.
Yeah, Ezra Evan. And then not long ago, somebody told me that I should name this console his first word. So I preemptively named this console Dad.
Yes. That's probably a whole lot better than goo. Also, though some people do say that, it's the glue that holds the mix together.
Sure. Yeah, right.
What is that console? So I recognize those blue knobs, but tell us about what console that is, because it's a beautiful console.
Yeah, here. I'm going to flip the camera. I'm going to just show you what we got. Let's see. There it is.
Oh, that's gorgeous, man.
This is an 8068. It's 32 channels. It was, it originated, or I guess its first studio was Electric Lady in Studio C, which is upstairs at Electric Lady. And it was, I don't know how long it was there. I've heard mixed stories from different people about the journey this console went on, but the one that I've gathered to be the most accurate is it was at Electric Lady in the late 70s into the 80s, and then it moved to a casino in somewhere in Wisconsin, which I can't remember the name of the casino, but you might know.
Wow.
It did a bunch of records there.
I wonder if it would have been like Oneida or Oneida. That's one that's up near where we go in the summer, but it didn't look like a really huge one. That was in Green Bay.
No, it wasn't in Green Bay. I think it was kind of middle of the state.
Wow, look at that.
Regardless, and then it went to the Pacaderm in just south of Minneapolis.
Oh, so that's the one that did In Utero for Nirvana?
Yep. In Utero was done there. Steve Albini, and a ton of other records, ton of great records.
Wow, man.
But then I think over time, the console kind of got beat up. It used to have this Nicam automation system in it, and Vintage King. This is another thing that I'm not really sure how it worked, but I think Vintage King just bought it, and then we got it maybe 4 years ago, and they came in. It was Vintage King and Ed Evans, who was the or maybe not original, but he was one of the main techs at the power station in New York back in the day. I mean, he's an amazing technician. And then also Roger Deller from Electric Lady. they all worked on it together, did a couple modifications, and now it's in fantastic shape. I mean, it sounds so good. It's pretty flawless.
So that's gorgeous. Give us like a really quick tour of like what goes on with this console. What are we looking at for, especially some of us may have never worked on a console before and are sort of curious how the signal flows.
Yeah, this is like as simple as a Mackie. There's the meter bridge, and then this is the busing up top.
Right, but which is kind of that's kind of the end of the signal chain, right?
Yeah, yep, that's kind of the end, but it's at the top. So we'll start here. The preamps are here at the top, and then it just goes to this EQ, which these EQs are great, 31102s.
Now, with those preamps, what if are we bringing in a mic input or a line input or what?
You can do either.
How does that work? How do you tell it which one you want to do?
Patch bay. And then here, like, there's actually like a switch, but the line input basically just comes from, let me see if you can see it. Line input just comes from Pro Tools here. And then you can switch it.
Oh, nice. All right.
Or you can just do like the full, all of them. And then here, there's just a line trim, sends, echo sends, aux sends, whatever. And then here's just like the sending it to the master fader, which is either the there's a 4 bus on this. There's the left front, right front, and rear bus.
Quad console.
Yep. And the rear bus gets used a lot for some sort of parallel thing. I don't use it often, but it does get used quite a bit. And then these are the monitor returns when you're in record mode. And then the faders. Okay,
so let's look at the EQs again one sec. So like, what are some of the EQ frequencies that you find useful all the time?
I mean, the 10K, 12K is so good on this desk. It sounds really great. I like to boost 30 on the low frequency instruments like kicks and bass guitar and stuff like that. The 30 hertz on there, or I guess it's 35 on this.
Yeah, I was gonna say, feel free to point in the video too, so we see where all these things are. If you want.
We got the high end here. So basically, you engage the EQ by pressing the EQ button, and then there's a phase button next to it, and then here there's the low pass, high pass, and then it goes low frequencies, which are 35, 60, 110, and 220. Mm-hmm. All of those are useful.
Yeah. 220 is great on snare, right?
Yeah, 220 or 110. Yeah. Use one. And then the mid range, 350. It goes from 350 to 7.2 thousand. So that's a pretty broad EQ. But yeah. But also all of those are useful. And then the high end. The high frequencies go from 10K to 16K, and they're great. They're awesome EQs.
Yeah, I love those things.
Like, a lot of guys. I mean, Ron St. Germain was here just a couple weeks ago with a huge band and didn't touch a single EQ, and it was one of the greatest things I've heard out of this room.
That's wild.
So the EQs sound great, but the board just sounds great on its own too.
All right, so you've got a signal that comes through, hits the EQ, and then if you want to send it to a reverb or to the headphones, where do you go for that?
Well, you can go to this section here. So when you're in record mode, you basically have aux sends 1 through 4, 3 and 4 are stereo. Mm-hmm. You have a pan knob here for aux 3 and 4, which if you press in is pre-fader and press down is post-fader. These are all post, I think, all the time.
Which is useful for an effect send, because if you bring up the guitar, you want to bring up the reverb send at the same time, right?
Exactly. Yep. And then same thing with down here, but I think 5 through 8, which 7 and 8 are stereo. You have a pan there for 7 and 8. These are as far as I think these are always on coming from the monitor section. So if you're in record mode, these are always coming from the monitor, and these would be coming from the desk input.
So it's a dual inline design or whatever, where you have the record signal is running through that whole vertical channel as well as the return for monitoring.
Yep. So when you're in record mode, your returns from Pro Tools or a tape machine are these small rotors here.
Gotcha.
And then if you want to use, if you want to put an effect or post Pro Tools effect or headphone send, you would use these. Sorry, I'm getting text messages. You would use these bottom four.
I know it's one of the challenges of doing something over the internet on a phone.
Right, you can't turn airplane mode on either.
Yeah.
Anyway,
very cool, man. That's gorgeous.
Like, it's kind of like just the most basic, really great sounding console. And then there's center section here where we have a couple of compressors, the 32 264s, which these are awesome. They're kind of like the 33609, but a little smoother. And then these are just a couple more EQs, and these are patchable, so they're not like actually on the. You can't just like insert them on the master bus.
Right, but it's easy to just patch them on if you wanted to, right?
Yep, exactly.
Well, that's very cool. Now, do you sometimes like to mix through those compressors? Do you put them in stereo link or something?
Sometimes, yeah, I've done that a few times. I really like these on. I mean, they sound really good on a lot of things. They really are just great compressors. I like them on vocals, and I like them on acoustic guitars. So that's where these get used for me the most, vocals and acoustics.
Yeah. All right, dig it. And then let's see. So that's the split.
A handful of other preamps over here, Millennias, APIs, these Mercury, like Telefunken kind of things that are they're like V72s, but these are called M72s. They're cool. Like those a lot. Chandler, Shadow Hills, and a Demeter.
Those Demeters are great.
Yeah, awesome. Yep, super cool.
I'm trying to remember if we used to distort those. We also had like the gosh, what was the other brand? It was I'll have to remember the name. It wasn't Tube Tech. It was another one that TLA, Tube EQ. That if you just cranked the input, you got the most badass distortion with it.
Mm-hmm.
So
yep, I like TLA stuff.
So good. And then you got your Pro Tools rig just off to the side.
Yeah, Pro Tools, and just there's just like a huge screen up there.
Nice. Now, how often, which way are you facing when you're working at the desk? Are you looking to the right for Pro Tools, or are you looking up at the big screen? How do you like to work?
I'm typically I've got this cart and it just goes wherever I want it to go.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm usually sitting here, and I don't know. I guess I'm always using this. This is just what I'm using. And
does it ever feel weird to sort of hear the music come to your left while you're doing something, or do you feel like you make a move in Pro Tools and then you turn and look at and face your speakers to listen to the results?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that when I'm tracking, I'm mostly just hovering over the console.
Yeah.
Or just moving around, and I'm not really thinking too much about it.
Yeah.
And same with mixing, but yeah, I don't mind just moving back and forth, but when I'm mixing, I've got a different room where I got the speakers right in, I got my setup right in between the speakers. So
okay, cool.
I'm not turning my head.
All right, dig it. So what else you got in the control room there? What other stuff we want to look at? Let's do a tour of the studio and see the place.
I will show you. I've got a floating rack. I've actually got a couple of these floating racks. We've got another studio next door in a separate building, which is an SSL room that has a really great collection of outboard gear, and then we've got just a handful of other pieces that float around.
Dude, I would accept that rack even if it wasn't floating.
Right? Yeah. No, this rack's great. It's got these retro 176s are so cool.
Tell us what a 176 is.
It's like the the pre 1176, right?
Yeah, and
As
it's
far as
tube, isn't it?
tube. Yep. And Retro is an awesome company. Their stuff is so cool. I use this almost every session. So we got that an 1178, which is great. This Obsidian, which gets used all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Some distressors, 33609, kind of the usual suspect.
And Rockstars, in case you didn't follow that, that's the 33609, the stereo Neve compressor. That's what he was talking about when he was referencing the two mono ones in the console.
Hang on, I'm getting sorry, I lost you.
That's all right.
So these guys, you got my back?
Yeah, you're back. Yeah, no problem.
Okay, cool. Got these guys, and they're kind of similar to this thing.
All right, cool, man. Awesome. What else?
And then over here, we've got the computer sits back in here. Just various mic panels or whatever. You can plug a headphone amp into this and listen to the headphone mix in here.
Look at that power strip, Rockstars. Look at that wall of power strips. Gotta love it.
Nobody has an issue finding a place to plug their phone in.
It's so important in a studio.
Yeah.
Maybe not the phone part, but plugging in your gear.
Yeah. Patch bay is here. This patch bay, like 4 years ago, used to be a 1/4-inch bay that took up this entire carpet panel here. So it was just massive patch bay. So
you were squatting to get down on the ground to patch anything in.
Pretty much. I mean, it was massive. It was so big. It's still here somewhere. There used to be a Neve 88R in here, 72 channel, or VR. So patch bay's here. We've got 4 vintage Pultecs up here, and then 2 of the newer ones down here.
What's the thing in the middle?
And then this is a filter.
Just low cut?
Yep, low and high cut. And that thing's really cool. It's great. A lot of people use that like plate reverb or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a 140 plate that's in a different room. And then GML, another 33609, a couple more distressors, stay level. Compressors.
That's the original 160s followed by the later 160Xs, right?
Yeah. Yep.
That's great.
And then 1176s, some gates, transient designer, and then a handful of effects over here.
Well, when you look at some of those compressors, let's just do like a quick Q&A thing. Point to a compressor and then just tell me the first instrument you think of for that. So like the Blackface 1176.
Bass.
Okay. The blue stripe.
Vocal. Lead vocal.
All right. And then the LA2A there.
Also lead vocal or bass.
All right. And what are those, LA3As or 4As?
Yeah. Guitars.
Okay. Dig it. And then go up. How about the 160X?
The 160Xs, I don't use them, but
right.
Guys love them on drums. I mean, they're cool. They're great on drums. I just don't, for some reason. Okay, I've got this thing where, like, I don't know why, but like I don't use a D112 on my kick drum because I really don't like the way that the D112 looks, and it just gets in my head. So it's like, I think I've got a similar thing with these DBXs.
It's too egg shaped.
It's ridiculous, but it's just how it goes. But I like these on like a drum bus sometimes.
Nice.
Those are really cool.
Stereo linked.
Yeah, or not. Let's see.
All right, stay level.
Stay level, I really like on certain vocals, and then kind of like drum, like kit mic, like a mic that's just getting the whole sound of the kit, like a mono thing. Distressors, I think, sound really good on everything.
Yep. They're so versatile.
Yeah, they're awesome. They're so great.
Thank you, Dave Durr.
And yeah, seriously. The GML, I I really only use that when there's something that's just bugging me that I can't get with the console. So I just
Yeah.
throw that. So if there's like a thing, if I'm really liking a piano sound and I don't want to go move the mics, but there's like a frequency that's ringing out, I'll just go carve it out on that. Or plugins. It's just kind of.
It's a stereo EQ, but it's very, very surgical.
Right. Yeah, and I typically use it as just 2 mono EQs.
Yeah.
But and then
awesome.
Little tape echo.
And that's you just
awesome.
Route all your phone calls through that.
Yep. Yeah.
And was that an Echoplex or was that one of the reissues?
This is a full tone.
Full tone, right? Yep.
Yep.
They did a great job of remaking those.
It's awesome, yeah. And I think that when we got it, we got like 15 extra tapes just in case, and I think I've only replaced it once.
That's cool, man. Right on.
And then I use these PMC IBS1As.
Okay.
These, and I mean, they should not be really near fields, I guess. They're my near fields in here, and they're the only speakers I listen to while I'm tracking now. And I love them so much. They're probably my favorite piece of gear in here aside from the console.
That's important. I mean, if it doesn't sound right to you when you're working, you can't make any decisions at all.
Yeah, it's true. And there've been lately, over the past year or so, a lot of just tracking board mixes that have ended up going straight to mastering because people just get it right.
That's awesome.
I think a lot of that has to do with these speakers.
Now, what was that white box over to the left?
No,
other left. Your other left.
Yeah, no, sorry, I was putting this T down.
All right.
Lexicon 480L. You guys have the plug-in, probably, most of you.
That's so awesome, man. It's like, you know what that takes me back to is, what was it? Oh man, who was the company? It was like, it wasn't Norelco. They made the shavers, but it was, the electric football too.
Mm-hmm.
Back before we had video games, we had electric games. So the battery powered games. You play them on the bus rides.
I know what you're talking about. Yep.
All right, cool, man. You want to take us around the studio?
Sure. All right. So let me just show you here. Here's the control room looking out into the live room.
That's your view. Not a bad view there.
This is the view. Let me try and give a little more light out there.
Who's that good looking guy in the reflection of the glass there?
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess it wasn't me because you don't see me in the reflection there.
All right. So maybe that's a little better. I can't tell. Anyways, so this is looking out into the control room, or out into the performance room from the control room. So looking to the right, there's an ISO booth here, which right now I have I'll just go in here.
There's so much wood, man. I love the way all that looks.
Yeah, it's all pine. So there's a flip top in here, which right now has a U67 mic'd up. And
how far away is that mic? You got 2 mics and they're different distances.
Yeah, so I've got 2 mics going on. The U67 is about 20 inches away, and it's got a great sound for certain things. And then I've got this FET 47, which is maybe 10 inches away. Mm-hmm. And so I'll just flip between the two of them. If one of these is not working, I'll throw it into the other, and that usually does the trick for this amp.
So it's not so much of a blend the 2 mics. It's like which one do you like better?
2 mics together. No, I'll use one or the other. Right now, typically it's the U67, but that changes.
Yeah. And then how's the low end in that room? Does it feel like if you had the same shape room in your home studio, do you feel like the low end would sound quite different than it does in this studio, well-designed studio space?
I don't know. That's a really good question. Probably. I mean, this is a very live, small room. Mm-hmm. You can see this is the same for the whole studio, but you have pine,
Mm-hmm.
which is obviously very reflective, and then in between all of the lats are this fabric that's covered by or covering some absorption.
Yeah. So
And so
that's probably bass trapping.
exactly. So you've got just like this reflective surface and then this absorption all the time everywhere in this whole place.
That's
Even
great, man.
even in here, even in the control room. So this is the view from here. And then, do you have any other questions about this?
No, it's great. It's just beautiful, man. Just when you move the camera around and we see everything, it's just really cool to see it all.
Cool.
And then, okay, then let's go through the door and maybe give us a glimpse at what the door is made of too. Cause it's good to know how studios go together.
The doors are fairly thick. I mean, they're not super thick. The doors separate. You can see how thick they are.
Yeah.
And pretty fantastic isolation, to be honest with you. And this is the coming out of this small room, going into another ISO booth, which this room gets used for vocals a majority of the time. Upright bass sounds great in here. Acoustic guitars, and some guys have thrown drum kits in here. It's a great room.
Also, just notice, Rockstars, how each room is like a funny triangle, or just like there's all these angles to the walls.
Grabbing my tea. Hold on. Yeah, there's no parallel walls anywhere in this whole place.
Yeah. So do you feel like explaining why you don't want a parallel wall?
With parallel walls, you're going to get a reflection off of one that's going to reflect off the other, and then continue to do so and create problems, or not, or maybe they're not problems. Maybe it sounds awesome, but typically in that scenario, there are some problem areas, and in here there are none of those.
Now, what's that mic up there? That color looks a little familiar to me.
This is a Bakke 251.
Okay, cool. It's the Elam 251 color. It's great.
It's a remake of the 251, and I like this mic. It works a lot. It sounds really good. Whoever was in here last was sounded great on it. And then this is their view, the singer's view into the live room, which I'll show you. The ceiling.
That's a good looking live room.
There's the ceiling.
Do you guys just turn on the attic fan and just suck all the musicians out the roof and the ceiling there when you're done?
Yeah, they would never come back. It goes straight to outer space.
Yeah, like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Right. So now we just walked out into the live room.
That's great.
And this has been my setup I change it up quite a bit. Sometimes I'll leave it set up for a while and people will just come in and use it. Other times it just gets changed every day. But recently, with the way that I've been doing things, I've just had it set like this, and it's been really great. I change out microphones pretty much every session, and I basically take all the inserts that I have on everything out every session, but leave kind of the microphones and leave everything ready to go. So it's if someone walked in right now, we'd be recording in 5 minutes.
Wow. All right. So describe what we're seeing. What is the layout? What's the arrangement of instruments and who's sitting where and stuff like that?
Okay. So first of all, my back is going to be to the control room. So we're looking out from the control room here. And so I've got a drum kit here. And then this right now is set for bass guitar, and then using this
the red DI.
The Ready DI.
Yeah, the one that like everybody's like, how do you say that? Is it Ready or Red DI?
I call it a Ready. All the bass players call it a Ready, so that's what I call it.
That's great.
And then there's the yellow SGI, which is basically an instrument cable extender over XLR. So that is going to the flip top in the other room.
Oh, dig it. All right.
And then just a talkback mic for them. And then everybody has a private cue
Yeah. What's the headphone
for
mixer there? Private Q. All right.
that's a private my tech. Yep.
Is that a
So this is
company?
where
Do they still make those, or is that like older technology, or what?
nope, they still make them. I think they're in maybe Brooklyn or Queens or something like that.
Okay, cool. All analog.
Yeah. Yep. And then I've also got the new 16 channel hearbacks as like a backup.
Those are awesome. What's the difference for a musician between using like the private Q analog system and a hearback digital system? Is there anything you've noticed?
I have 12 channels on the analog and 16 channels on the hearback. Other than that, I think that typically the guys just come in and start turning the knobs up and get it to sound how they want it to. So I don't think there's really that much of a difference.
Yeah. All right. Dig it.
And those I've got just like random tie lines here. So all the hearbacks, also with the hearbacks, I can daisy chain basically as many as I need to.
Yeah, they're probably easy to move around too.
They're easy to move around, and instead of these huge cables, it's just a Cat 6 or Cat 5,
Yep.
whatever.
Yep.
And then my mic panel here. I had Redco build us some really great snakes, so that just kind of cleans everything up a little bit.
Talk about that for a sec. So, if people are thinking like I need a really good snake in my studio, and they don't find it immediately listed somewhere, you don't have to build it yourself, right? You can call somebody like Redco and just tell them exactly what you need, and they'll custom build it for you.
Yep, exactly. Dave at Redco is a good friend. They're not far from us, so that also makes it easy. They're about an hour away, and you call them for anything and they'll build it. Anything.
Might as well be on the moon today, man.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So anyways, yeah, moving on. So we got, it's funny because a lot of people end up referring to this place as like a log cabin in outer space.
Yeah.
So
nice.
that kind of works. Yeah. Here's what the ceiling looks like.
I feel like we're going to do, what do they call them? Fire lodges, or what's the thing where you get in the teepee and you just like stoke the coals? Sweat lodge. There you go.
Sweat lodge. Yeah. I mean,
did you consider naming the studio the Sweat Lodge? Probably not the best choice.
No, it's not a bad idea though. I like it.
By the way, I love the all the Oriental rugs and the tapestries and stuff that you see.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I noticed you guys have the obligatory black leather couch in the studio.
Yeah, it's actually brown, but yep, it's comfortable, and I like to keep the lounge in here. It keeps everyone in here. It keeps everybody engaged. There's also a lounge outside. Yeah. I'll show it to you if you want to see it. But
doubles as a bass trap too.
Right. Yeah, it does. And then here I've got this rug. So basically all these rugs really actually help, not just for aesthetics, but for just mentally for the musicians to have their own little space and to just like I mean, they just really start to feel like this is their house. Like this is their little inside the studio.
Yeah. And these are all key elements. And the B3. Beautiful.
Yeah, and then over here is just a pretty simple key setup. So the B3 and a Whirly right now, and this changes often. The Leslie is back in this room, back in the corner. I'll walk you back there.
Just a reminder that like when you talk about a studio like this where you've got these big, beautiful instruments and they're not always needed, you have to remember you got to design in a place to put all those instruments when they're, being stored. So you guys probably had things in, I imagine.
Yeah, behind the outboard gear, there's a tech room, and then also off to the side there's another tech room. So we have plenty of storage, and then actually upstairs above this area of the ceiling is storage, like just wide open storage. So that really helps.
Wow. And there I was thinking
Right,
that it was
right.
just the moon up there.
Yeah, no, HVAC and all that crap is up there, and it's great storage. So in here, this is our driest of the rooms, but it is definitely not dead. It's a really cool sounding room. Right now, I've got it set up for all the guitar amps and acoustic guitars and stuff like that. And let's see, right now there's this Three Monkeys orangutan, which is awesome. This is one of my new favorite microphones. It's a M269. It's great.
Neumann.
Yep.
And then that's an old 421 or 422 or something like that. Or, is that what it is? 441.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
So the idea
Sennheiser.
with this is you get a really satisfying mid-range on this mic, and then the M269 has this great top end and great bottom end, and the blend of the two of them is awesome.
Yeah, and then Rockstar's, notice how he's got the diaphragms lined up together so that the elements, so that the sound arrives at each mic element at the same time.
Yeah. And then a good amp. These guys are great. Three Monkeys, super cool.
I like it.
An old twin.
I like it.
Sounds good. And then this little circular area is set up for acoustics, which right now I have a C12 and a B&K 4011, which this combination is super cool for acoustics.
Nice. And do you leave them spaced out like that, or would you line them up as
no,
well?
They don't. They just got moved. This changes a lot actually with acoustics. Sometimes I'll stick the mics right next to each other, kind of on the neck area, and other times I'll have the C12 kind of right on that 12th fret, kind of in towards the sound hole. It's pretty standard trick, and I'll put this mic on the body, or whatever. I'll just, it's kind of whatever I'm in the mood for, and if it sounds cool, then I'll leave it, and if it doesn't, then I'll change it and figure out a new combination. But right now I'm really liking this little guy. I'll show you the capsule. On the body, this thing on the body is really cool, and then the C12 on the neck.
Yeah, that makes sense, because the C12 is going to be like a warmer low end where the guitar is very bright already, and then the small diaphragm is going to be a brighter high top where the guitar is kind of
exactly.
naturally
and that's not
dark.
the B&K 4011 is not the brightest microphone in the world, but
now what were those boxes on the floor? Is that a Variac down there or something for the amps?
Right here.
Yeah, what's that?
This is the
brown box.
This is the C12 power supply, and this is the polar pattern selector.
On the C12?
Yep.
Wow, you got to have two separate boxes for that. That's
and then
wild.
also that box right there is the power supply for the 269.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
And then you guys have like a nice plywood floor there. And what are some of the things that make that room feel like you said, quote, the deadest room?
Well, really, it's the gaps in the wood in this room are the largest. So, much more absorption and much less reflexive surfaces. So if you look, all the gaps in here are just a lot larger, and it's such a cool room. The idea with the plywood floors is this room is kind of designed, or Tony Bon Jovi designed it, and the idea was this would be a rhythm room, which is why it's called the rhythm room. And with the plywood, if you need to drill something into it, you can, and you can just replace the sheet really easily if it gets messed up.
Studios, I've noticed that.
Right.
It's sort of a industrial space a lot of times, especially if you have instruments rolling in and out.
Exactly. Yeah. Let me see if I can get a good view of this room. It's a big room. All these rooms are pretty large, but this room sounds so cool. A lot of times. So another thing that I'll show you, these walls here are all retractable. They're just on track. So So you can open everything up.
Single sheet of glass, or is it like a thick? Doesn't look all that thick.
It's one single thick piece of glass. And the isolate, I mean, you get bleed for sure, but but it's not bad. And these do a great job.
Yeah.
And then there's just this, fabric on the bottom, which just helps deaden it down a little bit down there. But
yeah,
you can open all these walls up, so there's just one giant room or 3 separate rooms in here.
Wow, man. Wow. So, all right. So here's a question for you. When we see those slats in the walls, not to put you on the spot about the blueprint or anything, but how deep should we imagine it is behind those open slats where there's absorption? Are some of them like maybe on the solid wall, or are they generally going, are some of them going 4 feet deep and stuff like that?
I don't think any of them go much more than a couple inches, to be honest with you. I think it's they're sheets of insulation and then some lats. They're just some lats to nail these boards to. That's it. I think there there could be exceptions, but I really don't know. But I think for the most part, I mean, if you push hard enough, which I'm not going to, you could probably just feel that drywall on the other side of that.
Right on. Yeah, we don't need to make you poke holes through your studio just for us. All right, cool. What else do we want to look at? We're probably getting close to wrapping up, right?
I'll get moving. So this is all the rooms have loudspeakers, so you can wear headphones or you can not wear headphones.
Oh, that's so awesome. You can just feed the mix right out to speakers in every room in the studio.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. So this is the drum setup right now. Pretty cool. This is one of my favorite mics we've got. It's an old U47, 44.
Man. And then what's that? You got a 44 right there. And I notice, talk about the figure 8 pattern and how that might play into your placement right there.
So this, a little bit. It's rejecting the cymbal so you can see kind of where it's aiming, like right at the kick and snare, basically. So this was just something that I think I might have seen like on some YouTube video, and I thought I would try it, and it sounds really cool. That's most of the sound on the song that I'm working on right now.
Those damn YouTube videos.
I'm going to guess Eric Valentine because that looks like something he would do.
Right on.
So anyways, that is, that was an experiment and it worked. And then I like this U47 as a mono sound. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've only used that mic as the drum sound. It's really cool.
Really?
And I typically have it somewhere around there, maybe closer, maybe farther. But this thing's really cool. It's old.
And does the U47 play well with the close mics on the kit, or would you sort of really lean on that U47 by itself if you used it?
Both. It plays well and it sounds great by itself. I like it. Stereo C24 for a room mic, and that's all I've got for like a wide room mic out here right now for the drums. And then I'm going to try and slow it down so I'm not making you sick.
Thanks, man.
We've got a Yamaha C7, which sounds really nice. And right now I've got these Flea 49s, which are kind of M49 remakes. These are awesome. I'd highly suggest those. And so I've got kind of like a 3 mic setup on the piano right now with the U47 down here. It just ended up there. Sounds really cool. SM7B for vocal if we need it. And this room's really cool too. It's got this cool vaulted ceiling. And this room sounds really good for jazz drums. It sounds great for piano, and quartets sound really good in here.
Give us a
Sure.
low note on the piano. Oh man, that sounds good. And that's just an iPhone speaker
Nice.
or mic rather.
Yeah, it's a nice piano. A
That's great,
good kind
man.
of all around piano, and another mic panel, panel in
Yep.
every room. And
Yep.
there's the
Yep.
Leslie lives kind of in this corner for the most part.
You notice how they're miking up the back of the Leslie. So I'm not sure why it's preferable or
Yeah,
not to do it that way, but it's just that reminder, like the back was meant to be a lot of sound coming out and sort of bouncing off the wall behind it.
right.
And when you're recording, you don't need it to look good. So you can just mic it
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah, I don't know what. Yeah, that just is kind of how I've always mic'd an organ. It's,
Yeah. I imagine it sounds a little different than miking it on
I would
hoovers and
imagine
stuff.
it does. Yeah, I'm gonna do that next time.
All right, there you go. Just
So,
trying to mess up your flow here.
yeah. So sitting at the piano kind of gives you a good idea of a cool part about the studio is you have great sight lines to everything. So I'm at the drummer,
Yeah.
the organ player, the bass player, the producer, the vocalist, the guitar player, an acoustic player. So everybody's got really cool communication visually while they're playing, and if you can't get everyone in the same room, it's not a bad alternative.
That's great, man.
And if you want, here, I'll show you. I mean, a lot of the microphones are out here right now, but this room is just our mic closet and cable room.
Wow, look at all that. But I need to figure out a better way to do mic storage as well.
Sure.
What are some of the things you love about the mic shelf, and what are some of the challenges about figuring out how to store mics? Like, for example, do you have more mics than you know where to put them, like maybe many studios might?
I do, and typically what I've got is the mics that get used the most end up in here, and all of the tube mics end up in here. So basically the power supplies go on the bottom row, or they'll go on the top over in this corner. And then the second row is the tube mics, and the third row, well, let's see, not the third row. The fourth row would be the rest of the tube mics, and the third row is actually all U87s. These aren't, none of them are being used right now.
Simple piece of foam is a nice soft surface to put the mic on. Are there any things to watch out for as far as the foam and the mic? I mean, do you ever have like foam that gets old and starts crumbling up on you, or any
No,
warnings around
all
that
this
stuff?
foam is in pretty good shape. But if I did see any of it start to deteriorate, I would just take it out and replace it right away, and just not wait to get to that point.
What about the advice for smart ways to do that?
Well, first of all, just learn the over/under technique. And then I like to keep as many useful cables as close to every position as possible. So here I've got XLRs, an extension cable, 1/4-inch instrument cables, and a speaker cable, just in this little corner. And then just these gobos are blocking it, but behind these gobos here, I'll show you
more of the
same. So every room has at least XLRs and 1/4-inches at arm's length. Yeah. And so that just keeps everything moving quickly and keeps the studio neat.
Right. So, dude, Evan, thanks so much for hanging with us and giving us a studio tour.
Yep.
Let's talk for a moment just about like where we're at right now. I mean, right now it's mid-March and we've all been put on lockdown all over the country for this coronavirus thing. What are some of the things that you're seeing in your part of the world, and how is it affecting you personally and with your studio and stuff?
Well, I mean, we're in Connecticut, just outside of New York. So New York is definitely the epicenter right now. So we're shut down. The whole state is kind of shut down. So I'm mixing from my house, which a lot of my friends are doing, all over the place, which
Yeah.
is actually interesting saying that to you, because that's been a big issue for you. And
Yeah.
But I think that I'm it's going to be a really big challenge to get through all of this, but kind of looking back throughout history, and the significant times of our lives have really created pretty amazing shifts in music, and created some of the best songs to come out. And so I'm definitely looking forward to what all the artists are going to be creating during.
Yeah, we're certainly used to changes and shifts in the music industry.
Yeah.
Seems like that's been something we've been dealing with for a long time.
Yep.
This is a big one for sure. Are you seeing who are creators of music that you might mixing sort of sending a common message right now about some of their own struggles?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a little bit of that. I think there's kind of a pretty good combination between musicians communicating their struggles, and then also communicating this message of kind of hopefulness that is like confidence building to people who are losing confidence. I'm working with a kid right now, and he's sent me 5 songs in the past 4 days that he has written, and they're all so good.
Wow.
And they're all just really inspired. Some of them are about love, some of them are about work, some of them are about nothing at all, and they're great. And so I just think that it's giving musicians an opportunity to not be distracted by anything else for at least a period every day, and which is pretty cool.
Did he talk about or did he sort of acknowledge that he was able to be prolific at a time like this and not sort of feel frozen in his tracks? Have you heard anybody talking about feeling frozen in their tracks a little bit?
He mentioned that exact thing to me, that he was living in Boston. He's from Rochester, New York. And so when Boston shut down, all of his gigs got canceled. So he just went home to stay with his parents for a little while and see his family that he hadn't seen in months. And he actually called me a couple days after he got back and was just like, dude, I can sing full voice without my neighbors getting mad. And I can just like do whatever I want and go for a hike, and like just all these like things that he knew he could do, but didn't really realize the effect that it would take on his music. So that's really cool. I think that there's a lot of really great music coming out of this.
Well, I hope so. I know for myself, I feel like a double pull. Like I'm aware that there's all these things that like, I'm like, oh, I can go down and, I've got interviews to do. We can do a studio tour. I can reach out and do a live stream. I can make video. Weird push and pull, because at the same time, there's an accompanying sense of like mild depression around what's going on in the world, and the sense of like what's coming and everything.
It's the weirdest. It's the weird.
It's very strange,
It's super strange, but have hope. Don't be worried. We're gonna get.
Yeah. Well, and I think a really great message to all of us is just remembering to, live in the moment, live in the present, day out, or if we've got an opportunity to just pick up an instrument and play.
Yeah.
All the distractions and fear that I sense with what's going on right now, it's all related to an imagined future.
Right. That's right.
It's all like here, wondering like, what's going to happen when, tomorrow or the next day or the next week. And like everything that's the moment is like, you know, well,
Totally.
I mean, luckily I got food and toilet paper, so
Yeah.
hopefully that'll last long enough.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
think
you
you'll
know,
be able to get food, but the toilet paper, I like, it's gone. It's just gone.
and it's going to have to be my notes from
Right.
our video
Yeah.
interview here later. I'm sorry, Evan.
Cool.
um, but you know, just you know, I will acknowledge that one of the things for me that sucks, just not being able to hang out with friends, and like,
I know.
you know, I've said this out loud on the podcast, and I'll say it again here. My favorite thing to do is to spend all day in the studio with friends making music.
Yep. Yep.
So
It,
that makes that challenging. But I appreciate you hanging out with me,
it's
man. So
awesome.
it's
I'm
great to be
glad.
able to connect
I
this
love
way
your
too.
show, and I'm with you. I'm with you. I mean, I remember the first phone call that I got that said, "Hey, man, we can't make that session because of this
Yeah.
sick." I know. I was just like, "Come on, like, just come. It's fine. It's going to be fine." And then the next call that came in that said, "We're not going to make it." And then the next one.
Yeah.
And then it was just like, okay, wow, this is actually a really, really big freaking deal. And we're all going through it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I've been feeling that too. And projects are, you know, we're in a state of, you know, uncertainty.
yeah. Yep.
But rock stars watching this, thank you so much for hanging with us and watching this video. I want to encourage you all to drop a comment in down below. Let me see if you can see me in the little teeny window on the video here. I think I'm a little small window while we do this. But you know, let us know in the comments, like you know, what it's like for you in this lockdown. Are you being super prolific? Are you feeling like this is frozen in your tracks about it? And, you know, if you have any words of encouragement for everybody else, please drop them in there. So Evan, again, thanks for hanging with us, dude. It's great to see you. And thanks for giving us such an amazing tour of the studio. Let the rock stars know where they can go to check it out. If they want to go, hit your website and, you know, start thinking about when they want to visit you, when it's safe to come and socially get in everybody's personal space again.
Right. Well, the easiest ways are powerstationni.com, or look us up on Instagram at Power Station New England, and just shoot me a message. And if you have any questions or if you're in the area, just come on by.
All right, dude. Awesome, man. Thanks for hanging with us, man. I look forward to seeing the studio in person. And if you ever feel like the console needs a new home, just let me know. I got one. I'll find space for it down here.
All right. His name is Dad, and it's always for me. So if it ends up in your studio, just
awesome, dude. Thanks,
right,
Dad.
See ya.
See ya, Evan. Cheers.
Thanks, Ledge.